I'm officially calling the meeting to order. So I've already marked through these, and if you don't mind, I'm not gonna go the roll. I've put on the citizen members on here as well as those who are formally on the council. David, no one has met you yet. We met briefly at the meeting last Friday, so if you might, I guess we'll go around the room for David's ability and understand. So I'm Phil Lund, I'm the mayor, and appreciate the.
Nice to meet you, Mayor.
Yep, and go ahead.
I'm Pat Banker.
Just a little bit about yourself. So we're all getting to know each other.
I'm Pat Banker. I was born and raised here, moved back after a long stint away just in May, and happy to be involved with helping, build the community here.
And I'm Paul Collowick. Moved here about 14 months ago from Fountain. And in the transportation industry, and I did 14 years in the military.
I'm Jeremy Reeves. I'm City Council District 1. I have a day job and I do this with all the rest of my time.
My name is Victoria Duggar. I have a small business here in town, Emberline Management, and I have a husband of 25 years and 2 boys at the high school.
Kathy Worthington, City Council, lived here since 2000, and this seems to be my job now anyway, so it's good.
I'm Jerry Maloney, City Council, I own a business downtown, I'm a realtor, lender, and also run Pathfinder Park out in Florence.
You want staff too?
Absolutely.
Rick Harmon. Nice to meet you. Good to meet you too, Rick. Economic Development. Been in this position for 6 years, been in Canyon for 10. Did a stint as a Jeep tour driver before here, which gave me a huge understanding of the history of this community, which plays into what I do.
Kathy Olsch, I'm the building official for the building department here for the city of Canyon City. I've been with the city for almost 27 years. I've been here, let's see, moved here in 96. So I've been here a long while. I grew up from Pueblo, so I'm not far from home. Other than that, love being here.
I'm David Arlene, lived in the community for a little bit over 2 years now. My wife and I moved here from Colorado Springs. She's a realtor. I'm a commercial banker. Went to UC Bank in Colorado Springs, and I commute every day. And we love this community. It's amazing.
Welcome.
Very good. We've got a diverse group here. So we don't have formally the agendas in front of us. And so let me just talk about what the meeting is going to entail. One is that Kathy or Catherine on the mic there. I don't know if her picture comes up on here, but it's Catherine Sellers. Catherine is the attorney for the city of Canyon City, one of 2 that are on there. It's a firm, and she'll be talking us through something that was given to city staff, and as a result, it's been referred to the Economic Development Committee. The other thing is that Rick Harmon is here, and he's going to be taking 10 to 15 minutes and just talking about what the city's up to. He's got some documents here that we'll be passing out. And I have passed out this little thing that all of you should have got an email on, and it seems pretty bold, but talking about the transformation of Canyon City. I believe that that is necessary to do. And I specifically am putting my name on that document to say I'm responsible for what my part of it is. I'm hoping other people choose to do the same thing, because I am very serious that we need to address some things. And so I'm absolutely determined to do that. And so I'm putting together documents like that. We're not going to walk through that tonight, but I'm hoping that we'll take that document seriously. It's got a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't call homework, but it is talking about things that we as a city might take a look at and to deal with. So those are the pretty much the things on the agenda. I do want to say one more thing as the chair of the committee, and I specifically took it on as the mayor. It's kind of unusual that we do that, and the reason is because I am determined that we would make changes, and I want to give the mayor's position that economic development is this serious. The other thing on this committee is I don't want to waste your time. We want to deal with strategic issues, and we could get into the minutia of government. That's not what I want us as a committee to be involved with. I want you dealing with the big things, and whether it comes from staff or whether it is stuff that you bring to the table yourself, but it's gotta be strategic things that we as a council need to take a look at. And I figure my job is 2 years, and I'm wanting it to be very strategic, that we're taking on things that will set Canyon City up the foundation for the future and where we can go. So I consider your role to be extremely important. You're not here just so we can look good and that we're visiting with citizens and isn't this nice? No, you are a serious part of this, that we need to hear from you and we need to think about the future. And the mayor had the privilege of choosing people, and I'm hoping that we've got diversity on here. I took the look at your letters of interest with seriousness, took a whole weekend to think about strategy as far as where we could go, and specifically worked to make sure that we had some younger voices on the group as well. So that's just my thoughts. Again, I appreciate each one of you being here, including the staff and and the council members that are here. And let's make this a very productive year that we've got in front of us, and see if we can't pick off some low-hanging fruit and to make some movements on that. And I think that the council will be ready for that. So last thing on the procedure, we've got 3 council members here. The mayor does have a vote in the committee. I don't have a vote on the council. And it takes 4 votes to pass anything. So there's no one council that has 4 members of the council members on it, so that immediately it can come out of committee and be guaranteed of success. We have to convince the rest of the council that whatever we propose to them is worthy of their consideration and taking that on as a policy position. So that is by intent, and that's the same with all of the councils as well. And you specifically, unfortunately, you don't have a vote. Those are elected by the people, but you do have a voice, and you're going to be treated as full members of this committee, as opposed to just subordinate positions. You are not, and we look forward to having each one of you involved with that. So with that, I'd like to take care of the administrative stuff that came from city staff. And Catherine, are you there?
I am.
Okay, everyone should have before them this Colorado Wildlife Resiliency Code. That's what Catherine, as the attorney, is going to address, and it's come down from state government, and it's something we as a city need to deal with. So Catherine, why don't you walk us through that and what decisions, if any, we need to make today?
Sure. So I'm going to give you a little bit history first, and then talk about, you also probably have a draft ordinance in front of you, or at least I hope you do, and talk through what the city's process is. It should be like a 2-page document, that ordinance. It's not very long, so not like the code itself. So as the mayor alluded to, a couple of years ago, 2023, the state legislature adopted some legislation that created the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board and directed that board to do 2 things: create the model code you have in front of you and a classification map. That map, I think Kathy can bring it up perhaps and put it on the screen so you can kind of visualize.
Give me a minute, Catherine.
Ready for it, man.
Okay, I'm gonna keep talking while you, there we go.
Right.
And so that map's accessible online. So as you can see Canyon City. It's kind of like a little bit of a donut there. And so a good portion of the city is actually not subject to this code. So anything that's not colored in yellow or orange is not subject to this code. The areas in yellow and orange are different classifications as designated by the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board. Those are the urban wildfire urban interfaces, or the WUIs as they're known. So you might hear WUI or WUI code. This is all along the same lines. And so properties within those yellow and orange areas, as I mentioned, are subject to the code. The code has 2 components to it. It's got a structure hardening requirement, and that's laid out, I believe, in section 3. I want to say I don't have all of that in front of me. And then there's a vegetation requirements. So this does not apply to current existing structures and certain work that you might do on your home. Let's say it's interior improvements, or it doesn't increase your footprint up to, I think the limit is 500 square feet. So anything above 500 square feet would trigger the code. And the work that's exempt under the code is on page 8 of the model code. It starts on the bottom of page 8 that you have in front of you if you want to take a look at the exemptions from the code. So that's the basic gist of the code. The legislation itself requires counties, municipalities, and fire districts to all adopt this code. They have varying degrees of enforcement authority. And I know that the city's been talking to the fire district. The fire district will also be adopting the code. I don't know about the capacity of the fire district to actually enforce elements of the code. They would only enforce the vegetation requirements. They do not have the expertise to enforce the structure hardening requirements. Through the adoption of the code, the city is not allowed to make any substantive changes to the code unless they petition the state agency and the code board and get approval for that amendment. So the code is what the code is, unless the city decides to petition the state to do that. So there's not a whole lot.
That's true with home rule cities as well, right?
Yeah, so just to give you a little background, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept of a home rule municipality in Colorado, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I'll give you a brief overview. Canyon, of course, is home rule, has been since 1945. It's a fairly old home rule community. And under home rule authority, those municipalities are allowed to exercise their discretion in what are called areas of local concern. And those are areas that are traditionally delegated to municipalities. This is a very interesting kind of code. It's neither a building code nor a fire code. It's kind of a combination of the two. And I will say that we have pressed the state because there are some issues with the legislation that don't really concern the city, but some other clients of ours, counties and fire districts, and they have been very shady about what they want to classify this code as. So under home rule, building codes are typically a matter of local concern where a home rule jurisdiction can regulate without state preemption. Fire codes are typically the same. However, the state has taken the position that this is what's called a matter of statewide concern. And because of that, and frankly, because of the current kind of climate, I guess, political climate and recent history of fires in Colorado, we think the state is likely to push that issue pretty hard. And at best, will fight the city or any other municipality if they refuse to adopt the code. Our analysis of the home rule question is probably that's called what is a matter of mixed concern. So the state has an interest and the local government has an interest. And in that case, the state statute will preempt any local regulation that's in direct conflict. And so the failure to adopt would likely be a direct conflict with that state law. So that's where that analysis lands. I'm trying to give you the 40,000-foot view of it, but that's where that lands.
You have to prove this.
Or we assume.
Anything else we need to consider?
No, just let me talk a little bit about the ordinance really quickly. So this is a process called adoption by reference. So this happens when the city adopts any building code, mechanical code, anything like that. So we actually adopt the wildfire resiliency code in whole, and you can see there is an amendment section. So I just want to clarify my comments about not being able to make amendments. These are items within the code that are either minor or just to make it fit within the Canyon City Code or fill in blanks in that code. So these types of amendments are permitted without seeking permission from the state. Section 2 of the ordinance adopts this map you have in front of you as the WUI interface areas. So this would be the map that would go along with the code. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? And this includes everyone. So this requires, the committee to, push this up to the council, and this is a two reading, kind of situation.
Yeah, it's a two reading. We have to follow the charter provision for adoption by codes for reference. Yeah, so for those of you who might be unaware, the charter contains a provision where well, not all ordinances, but certain ordinances must be referred to committee. And so you're performing that function tonight for the city council. And so they'll be looking for a recommendation on whether or not to adopt or not adopt, or what the committee decides to make of that recommendation. So.
Any questions for the attorney?
So Catherine, I may have missed it and I apologize, but can you clarify the yellow and the orange again?
So those are different levels of classification. Yellow is level 1, orange is level 2. You'll see a little bit of red on the outside of the map that's not canyon. That's level 3. And so each classification requires certain things in the structure hardening and the vegetation. So it depends on what the property is classified as.
We do have 3 areas that are level 2. North Fifth Street, there's some little bit of level 2.
Right there,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right up against Hogback.
yes. And most of those houses are built out. We also have some in Dawson Ranch, and it's a hit and miss in Dawson Ranch. There's a whole section that there's nothing.
It's here.
No, that's actually Gold Canyon, 4 Mile is up above, or I mean Dawson is up above. 4 Mile Ranch is in level 1. We do have a level 2 portion of up there by Keystone Loop, the new subdivision up there.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the different levels in terms of building?
Level 1, you would just it's basically the roofing has to meet a class A roof.
And level 1 is the yellow.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, does anybody have any concerns about the adoption of this code? Anybody? So the council members who can vote, I'd be looking for a motion to pass this on to the council for their consideration of adoption.
I so move.
Okay. Heard by Kathy and Jeremy seconds the motion, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Okay, very good. I do want to work through this document, but I'm going to give Rick a chance to take 10 to 15 minutes just to give us some background on where we're at with city issues, and I think Rick has taken this, and so we're passing this along. as
Yeah,
well.
if you want those, you can pass them around. So that'll apply more to the retail side of things. So economic development in Canyon City is kind of a one-man show.
Who is that person?
Have we met?
We have, I do have a grant writer that is in my department, and just to give you some background, there's always discussion about, in the community about, well, there's a grant for that, there's a grant for that, there's a grant for that. And oftentimes there's not a grant for that. However, in the six years that Randy's been here, we've gotten $18 million in grants. Gives you an idea of what it takes outside of our community to develop our community. And grants is seen as a very important thing, and Randy works with all of the departments in the city, principally on infrastructure and city-related development, city-related investment in the community. So a lot of what we see going on right now is just building out, like the Arkansas River Corridor Master Plan, the Centennial Park Master Plan, the Main Street Strategic Plan, all of that is largely funded through grants coming from 35 or so different funding organizations. So very, very, very active on the grant side of things. The challenge on the grant side is that there's usually not something for business owners.
Yep.
The grantors don't fund businesses. Generally is the case. COVID was a different matter. There were more opportunities for business owners to have grants during COVID, but that went away pretty darn quickly. So really Randy spends a lot of time on the economic development side of things in terms of the infrastructure. One thing that we do, so economic development is impacted by everything in the community. It's whether it's police department, and we're working with the police department on their initiatives, public works, building department, planning, zoning, healthcare, childcare, workforce development, you name it, it's all tied into economic development. So for a one-man show, that's a lot of work to do. But some of the bigger projects we've got going on right now, we build out, and this is what all the public works projects you're looking at, we build out our comprehensive plan. That's our guide to what we should be doing. And that determines where we put our efforts. A lot of that also is what we have available in our community for development, for growth, and largely that's 4 Mile Ranch on the east side of town. If you're not familiar with, if you look at the zoning maps, the big pink area on the east of that is 4 Mile Ranch. We are working now on creating a new urban renewal area. So the city created an urban renewal area, urban renewal authority in 2020. And the first urban renewal area, tax increment area, and I'm not gonna get into details on that because I could do more to confuse you all than anything. But the areas along the I-25 corridor and then commercial areas, potential commercial areas adjacent to it, north and south. 4 Mile Ranch is a much larger community. It's gonna be a 1,500 acre roughly development that could produce a couple thousand homes in the area. The new URA area that we're talking about is more of the 600 to 700 acre portion of that, that would centralize the infrastructure needed to help develop that area. A lot of talk in the community about, do we need growth? Do we not need growth? The fact is that historically, if you go back to the creation of I-25, that is the creation of our decline, because that completely cut Canyon City off of the Front Range. And all of the state funding that went into building that infrastructure went into producing commerce along that infrastructure. State is trying to work away from that right now. But if you look at all of the industry attraction to the state, it's all controlled through Denver and it's all controlled through the I-25 corridor. So the challenges we have with growth are directly tied to our position related to I-25 and our closeness and distance from Colorado Springs and Pueblo at the same time. So we are working toward developing 4 Mile, making that, so some people in the state consider us more of a bedroom community. We have opportunities for 4 Mile to market to Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Fort Carson, to attract housing here. We have 59% of the people in Fremont County work outside the county. So we have opportunities to bring jobs here into the community. One of the projects that we're going to be working on soon, trying to get grant funding for it, is an analysis of what people that are leaving our county to work are doing to help us determine what types of industries we should try to attract to take advantage of that workforce. But 4 Mile right now is the targeted area for a lot of residential growth and also commercially retail development. We have very little in terms of space, pad space, is what they call it, for retailers to come and acquire and build in our community. We certainly don't have enough land in the commercial areas to develop, say, a 40-acre parcel that has like a strip mall kind of a thing. So 4 Mile is becoming the focus for a lot of that. Working also with the Abbey Development's operating really on its own. I'm not as involved with that. Very involved with 4 Mile. Abbey is a development on obviously inside of town. It's called a greenfield. Very interesting spot because it's a greenfield inside of residential, which people that are residences east and west of there love the fact that there's no residences in there. So there has been pushback on 4 Mile, on the Abbey development. 4 Mile Ranch is what's called the Planned Development District. The Abbey is a planned development district, and they're revamping their plan right now. they are working much more toward attraction type of a business, golf course type of a business, and potentially a fewer higher end homes in there. And then potentially converting the Abbey Monastery into a hotel. So that's gonna be much more attraction of people from the area, not nearly as much commercial. That's a very long project as well. Another thing we've been working on, a few years ago, we started working on a fiber to the premises project. We went out with ARPA money. I can't remember what ARPA stands for. It's COVID money.
Recovery.
Yeah, COVID recovery money. The city invested $1 million of its COVID money into creating a redundant municipally supported ring of fiber that is complete. We're making the final payment soon. But that ring circles the greater Canyon City area, includes all of the county, city, emergency, E911 types of structures. So we could boost up that infrastructure. And now it's branching out to the communities. There's also what's called a carrier neutral facility right here. There's this little box right in the parking lot that is designed to allow other providers to come in and tie into the system so that we can create competition for fiber in the area. We noticed immediately, once we did that, that prices started to come down for Spectrum. And then another fiber company came in and started providing fiber. So that's working, and they're building out now to the residences. We don't want to have a scenario where the power goes down and we have no businesses downtown with any access to the internet. Thankfully, for a while, there's a ATM in Brothers, and people went to get to the ATM and they could actually get some money to pay their restaurant bills. But the fiber infrastructure is critical to boosting our economy, and that is well on the way. And they are now, when we initially started this project, I tried to incorporate Florence into it, a regional effort. Florence was going through some pretty interesting times back then. So they had really nobody that could speak on their behalf. So we did our own thing. The fiber company right now is starting to project and build out toward Florence. So it's happening, but it's happening privately in that case. Probably the biggest biggest project we've been working on since I started is housing. We've met with probably between us and FEDC and UACOG, probably a dozen different housing developers. The first recruitment I ever did was for a housing developer to come in and buy property here, and they did. They didn't build it out. So they're sitting on property up where the Dollar General is going. Unfortunately, housing is a very difficult topic to get through. We are in this weird chicken and an egg or three-legged stool, however you want to look at it. Retailers want housing, housing wants retail, jobs wants to know that there's housing and commercial. So it's a very complicated economic picture here. I also work as an advocate for businesses and investors. People in the city know that I operate as an advocate in the city and for businesses and investors, and they don't necessarily agree with what I believe, but I'm a little bit of an outsider on the inside. On the economic side, we have a Dutch Brothers in development right now. We have a Seven Brews that's working on coming here. You will, in this committee, hear pushback from people about tire shops, coffee shops.
Yes.
This is the way the economy is working right now for us. We are not in a position where the city gets a lot of grief for being not business friendly. We are not going to tell people who they can and can't sell their property to. That's why we have what we have. I was successful in one case of preventing a broker from assembling property and putting in a gas station. I didn't necessarily feel great about that, but we do not have one gas station. Thankfully, because we worked the system to prevent that. I'm also working on industrial development, where me and FEDC and others, one in this room, are working on creating potentially, and I say potentially because it's not there yet, an industrial development corporation for development up by the airport. My job is very regionally focused. It's not just Canyon City.
Yeah.
If we want to create jobs, it's going to be jobs outside the area because we don't have real estate in here. Very little real estate in the city limits to create primary jobs. So I work with FEDC. We're working with the Economic Development Administration to try to get federal funding to assist with this. And I work with the property owners to connect them. I call myself a connector because we're trying to create some development activities, industrial development activities to get the jobs we need. We do have more jobs in the area now with Miticus and Estes Energetics. Legacy Roofing is expanding. We have a number of housing and housing related businesses at the airport that are growing and expanding. So there's opportunities for growth in jobs, which is very critical. One thing I talk about a lot is my regional promotion of our area. I'm from the Midwest. It has a massive supply chain. He's from the Midwest. It has a massive supply chain. We have a very siloed, small supply chain in the state of Colorado. And trying to get our community in that supply chain. So I work with Colorado Springs, Denver. A friend of mine, very good friend of mine, is a CEO at the Denver Chamber on their foundation. So I'm up there frequently. I'm in Colorado Springs frequently, trying to promote our community within the supply chain that is Colorado. Other things we created the Royal Gorge Young Professionals. Ryan LeClaire, that was really his idea. He asked me if we should do it. It's like, absolutely, we got to create younger stakeholders in our community. That came out of a conference we went to. Totally support him on that. Working on public art. We are working toward becoming a creative district. So the Public Art Committee, very complicated. Public art doesn't necessarily fit into municipal procurement policies. So we're trying to figure out how that all works out. And then I'm working on, tried once, failed, working on another attempt to create a downtown partnership of sorts, whether it's a community business partnership, downtown partnership specific. From the economic development world, we do get a lot of pushback from businesses not downtown. We spend a lot of time focusing on downtown. We need to spend some time focusing on those businesses as well. So they will be coming into this idea as well. So lots and lots of things going on that occupy my time. And happy to meet with any of you to tell you what is going on in more detail. When we get into topics of retailers coming or into financial discussions with developers, that kind of information I can't share. But I will share what I possibly can. I've been in conversations, shared information about deals that because of it fell through. I'm not willing to do that.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. So one of the things that Rick is staff for the city, and he's doing things that are the stuff that is nuts and bolts kind of thing. We are a policy board, and the question I have on a policy board level, and maybe I'll address this to Rick, is this little document. One of the first things that it talks about is making it easier to do business in Canyon City and removing friction. And that's what I think a policy board can actually be looking at. And I want to just give 4 examples that have happened to me as the mayor this week. So one of them, I got a call today, and some of you in the room will recognize, but One person is putting on an addition for, 80 square feet, and he's required to do a soils test, for 80 square feet. And that's an additional amount that needs to go onto the builder to do exactly that.
You might explain what that is.
Soils test?
Oh, soil, I misunderstood you.
Yeah, soils
Is
test.
that Wisconsin accents?
Just sorry about that. That's just, he's the Wisconsin guy. I was.
Yes.
I'm pure Colorado with this.
Like,
So Rick and I met, and I think Ryan's in the background, and I see him on the screen as well. We met yesterday, with a couple other staff, and there's a individual in this, community who wants to put in the 200 block, of retail, position. And right now, the code is blocking him from doing that. And so we had a discussion, we'll see how that goes, but that is a policy decision that, there are codes preventing people doing, specific business, in the downtown, or at least in the central business district. I'm aware of another individual that met with me, and if you're familiar with Three Rocks, and, he wants to put a climbing gym in, and, we're talking about $250,000 to $350,000 of extra expense that the city is putting on him before he even opens up the door. And, so he's got to go out and borrow that money, and we're looking at $500,000 that he would have to pay back, before that happens, and that is again, a policy decision that we're imposing on. We've got another, person that, wants to put in a building over on Main, on the other side of Main, not the one here. And, we're talking to him, there is no curb and gutter sidewalks or anything in that area, and we're, enforcing. It looks like that, he has to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk, a sidewalk to nowhere, and that again is a policy decision, and I'm not picking on city staff or anything else. These are things that are in the code, and so the staff is there. But I think, as a policy board, we have to take a serious look at, do we have, restrictions that are out there that are causing, businesses to turn away? And I can tell you specifically, in my efforts, personally, that I get to Colorado Springs and Pueblo, there are people who do not want to do business in Canyon City. And again, I'm very determined that we as a policy board, we need to look at that kind of stuff and give it serious talk. And I don't think this is a right issue or a left issue. It's something about being pro Canyon City and making a difference. And so those are the kind of issues I want us to give serious look at, as far as, are we business friendly? And, we must be, if we're gonna, allow for young people to absolutely live here, raise a family here and everything else. And, so, there's more examples. When I took the hat of mayor, I get calls every day, specifically in texts and everything else, and I'm sure the other council members do as well. But, we absolutely, need to be looking at this. We need to be brave about it. We need to be, willing to do some stuff. And no offense, towards anybody in the room, but I am gonna be looking at, Southern Colorado Building Department. I've been over there several times. People in this, room have been over there, and, they have made a proposal to us. And, in my view, that's something that we need to take a look at as well. And, would like, permission to invite, the person over there to, come to our meeting and the next meeting and lay out exactly what the proposition is. We can look at, internally what's going on as well. But, just am not willing to have, this go on any longer. We've got to deal with these issues, and we are the people with the Economic Development Committee that has this task of taking a look at this and making serious decisions that impact citizens and their decisions to live here long-term or not live here long-term. So I don't know if I've got a question for you, Rick, but I'm just interested, if you see any friction points that we need to be looking at from a policy level that would be there. And I appreciated you in the meeting yesterday or the day before of taking a look at the one that was in the 200 block and what we possibly could do there. You were an advocate for the person that wants to do that expansion, and I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, and I go to developer and retail conferences in Denver and in other parts of the country too. The challenge when, we can get really philosophical about why codes are there and planning and zoning is there, and we did a little of that yesterday. Planning and zoning is there to create a community that the community wants to see. The challenge is, what if it's not working for your community? And then you always have these businesses that are grandfathered in because they were in existence before the code changed. And that creates this, well, they're allowed to do it. Why are we not allowed to do it? So there's a little bit, the staff is then put in a position, well. I have to enforce it, and that was one of the comments Patrick made. If you're asking the person who has to enforce the code. Then I say no, because the code doesn't allow it. You create a black and white scenario where a person who's in a position to defend these codes is in a position that if they don't defend it, or if you take an oath to public safety and something happens, their decision has a negative impact on their livelihood, potentially, the city itself, and it's very, very tough to make those decisions. It's easier to say no. Me in the middle, it's like, well, all right. What if the zoning is not working for a certain block? And this is what we talked about yesterday. What if it's not working for a certain block? What if the building codes are very restrictive and this fire code is honestly that none of us like that. She doesn't like it. And we've been in other conversations about codes that staff doesn't necessarily like. But we're not in a position to say, all right, forget the code, we're gonna go with it. That's where we run into a problem.
What about things that aren't related to public safety, like curb and gutter and sidewalks?
That's a little.
And we make exceptions on those cases.
Becomes a tax dollar issue,
If what?
then the city has to pay for it. Yeah,
Or
it's
unless it doesn't
Or
happen,
not
well,
required.
unless it, sure.
unless it doesn't happen.
So it's
But
one of
that-
those arguments, like if it's not there, we're not getting any benefit from it anyway, and it's not necessarily a safety code, because. If we wanna say it's a pedestrian safety, well, they're gonna walk on a sidewalk for 50 feet and then they're gonna be back out in the street.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So those are some common sense things that we should be able to make exceptions.
And on that's the public work side of it, I don't know, I'm not sure how those,
That's public works.
I'm
that's
not
way
sure how
around.
those are set.
Yeah.
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 But this committee deals with everything within the city, so.
Right, well, that rolls into my question as well, is like, how do we handle requests? Who reviews those, or do we take them? Is that
I didn't hear, how do we handle that?
Variance.
a code variance request?
Oh, variant,
We have a board of adjustments.
Board of Adjustment.
You can go to the board of adjustments.
But the person that served on it last year, no longer does. He said they had 2 in the whole year. So it's not simply something
Yeah,
that's.
yeah, I don't know how they get. I don't know how they get initiated, honestly, I think they have to make a formal
You have to,
One-
a formal application.
application.
One was the fence that's around
Yeah.
the Standard Oil coffee. That one happened, and that was a safety issue that they decided with it, and I have no idea what the other one was, but it doesn't get used much, Patrick.
But those are the types of things, you know, I'm always, I was talking about that before I came to this meeting, you know, that there are things that. From a developer perspective, don't make sense, and if you're talking about a $250,000 building. And you wanna make them pay 50 grand or whatever, or, you know, a $200,000 building and do the infrastructure out to. I don't know how those are set, I don't know how those rules are set. But it is definitely something that's gonna make people say, nah. Not gonna do it, but
The engineer and the architect have not heard from him in several weeks as a result of finding out that that was there. And you can't blame him if you're gonna do city infrastructure. And that you're gonna have to pay every dime of that back. It's on your loan that is there. And it doesn't add to your bottom line whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you sell the business or anything else, so.
but on the staff side, it's difficult to be.
I understand, and I wanna make clear, I'm not blaming staff for anything right now. What I am saying is the responsibility is on the shoulders of the policy people. And say that we've got friction that people are absolutely complaining about frequently. And I think legitimately so, and it's up to us to step up to the task of taking a look at those seriously and trying to. Absolutely do some changes, and especially if the staff is saying, you're making me enforce something that I don't wanna enforce, or I don't see the common sense of it. I gotta go to Kathy and then Victoria.
Sure. I was just gonna say that person we're talking about, he's also on a piece of ground that I'm sure he's had to do due diligence because there is mining around it and making sure that there's no shafts or holes or anything in that area. So that added, I'm sure, some expense to him to begin with, so.
Yep.
And it's a great location for what he's talking about, so.
There's no secret, it's 15 acres out on Forge as you're going up to Dawson Ranch, so. Victoria,
So I have two questions. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but two that I'm gonna articulate right now. We have mechanisms in place, it sounds like. So for these four examples that you've popped up with of people that have come up to you and said something. We have mechanisms in place if they don't like what they're hearing because of the codes for the dirt or the sprinkler systems or whatever. They can apply for a variance. And then we have a variance board that can hear them. So whether they're good or bad things that are in our building code system now, I'm not gonna argue that point, that's not the point. We have a system in place though that they could go to someone else and say, this code stinks. And have someone hear it out and say, yeah, you're right, this isn't good, we should look at this farther. And make a different decision on this code. Whether only two people did it last year, that's not the point, but there is a system in place for that. It just maybe they need to be made more aware of it.
Almost.
Okay, tell me what that means.
Almost. In the case, the case we were talking about yesterday. That we met about yesterday.
Mhm.
The ability to do what they wanted to do wasn't even contemplated in zoning, so. The process doesn't become a variance on the zoning, it becomes changing the Unified Development Code. To incorporate the ability to do a conditional use or special review use. So in that case, there was nothing in the box at all.
I see.
So it was more like he had to make a request to the city to change the zoning
I see.
entirely to create a conditional use or a special review use process. Which I wasn't aware of actually until I sat at the meeting. It's like, well, you just have no option right now, other than going through this process of changing the zone. Which is a little more complicated than it's saying, I don't agree with.
Right. No.
Because now you're adding a separate process.
Sure.
But, no, in terms of, but for the most part, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Okay.
there is a way to do it. There is also, and this falls back to some extent on the community, there is also this impression in the community that, well, they're not gonna let me do it. The city's not business friendly, I'm not gonna try. They just get pissed off and they go away. Everybody in this community is an economic developer, everybody in this community speaks at a table in a restaurant. And they could have a retailer sitting right next to them and they didn't even know it.
Correct.
And that's happened. But that impression that if the city says no, give up, shouldn't be there. If the city says no, go through that next step.
Or
And,
see if there is
which
one.
is what Greg is doing. So there is a process there. But in terms of,
but Greg has been on the city council before and other.
yeah, you totally
giving him
understand the
some,
process. Yeah.
understanding that the normal citizen would not have, to do that, and even he is running into very large barriers, and what I'm again trying to do is make sure, as this committee, we step up to the plate, and we deal with this hard stuff and see where we can go. You did one question, you have number two?
I have a number two, yes. So my next question is the Southern Colorado Building Department that you spoke of earlier.
Yes,
You said bringing someone in.
yes.
So my question to that point is A, what is that? And then, so I have some sub questions.
Right.
And then B, so bringing someone in, I'm assuming from the outside, because they're not here or from here. I don't obviously have a problem with that, but are we bringing someone in to help review our department? Or are we bringing someone in to take over our building department? Are we gonna be working with our people here to go through the codes and like maybe fine tune it ourselves as a community? Or like, what's the path forward that you're bringing, that we want to bring someone in the Southern Colorado Building Department? Like, tell me about that.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Great.
So Southern Colorado Building Department is in Pueblo, but it is a regional building department. Currently, before it was tied in with the county of Pueblo, and they separated sometime last year. And I've dug into exactly what the separation was. I'm cool with what has happened. They reached out to the city last November, October kind of thing. I wasn't on the city, so I don't have to worry about any executive sessions or anything like that. There's conversations that I had with Pueblo Mayor. And the city chose not to entertain any further discussion with that. When I went and met with the Pueblo Mayor, that's when I learned that they had made a proposal to the city to consider the city being part of that regional building department. And so I asked him, I'd like to see that proposal again. I saw it, and then I went over myself and visited with the mayor and the person that is in charge of that department. So that's who I'm talking about. His name is Mark, and he's in charge of the department. Since that time, I view that we need to take a serious look at a regional department, and I advocated that with the county. Specifically that we look at a county building department because we've got different codes, we've got different employees, and the county is specifically stated, I'm talking about Fremont County, specifically stated in a meeting that I think Kathy was at as well, that they have no interest in entertaining that discussion. And for me, that would be the primary thing, that we would pull the fire department in because they have that sprinkler system that was just recently talked about. We would pull in Fremont County. We might even look at doing something with Florence, and certainly the city building department. And we would consider that we would have a regional department so that people like Lester Lamone, who's an architect, and all the contractors don't have various codes and everything else. It's a real challenge for them. And Debbie Bell specifically stated that the county is not willing to entertain that discussion. They don't want to deal with it. They entertained it in 2018, 2019. They took a year for that process, and they decided that they're not gonna do that anymore. They got right to the end and we weren't able to put that together, the people that were involved at that point. I believe, right now, we do not do, inspections for electrical. We do not do inspections for plumbing. That's, the state is involved with that. We do not do for commercial, you correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but we do not do, plan review, for at least commercial. That's farmed out to a company called Shumscoda. And, so I am interested that we have a one-stop shop of professional, and I think it's something that we need to look at. So what would happen, Victoria, would be the person who is in charge of that would come in and talk about what that would look like. Now, your questions on the decisions as far as staffing and everything else, nothing has been discussed about that whatsoever. We might consider a couple options. We might consider having them do electrical, plumbing and plan review, and they could do that instead of how we do it before. We could talk about the staff that we have, if we went regional, that they would be part of that project. Again, none of this has been dealt with. So this is really a prep to go over there. Now, with complete disclosure, Kathy has stopped in and visited with them. Jerry and I rode over and visited with them. Jeremy and I rode over and visited with them, so that all of us have taken a look at what's going on there, how they do their business, what their attitude is, do they have common sense or not common sense? And I just believe, given where we're at, that is something that it's incumbent on us to take a look at that. And so I would like to invite them in and give that presentation and see where we go. With that, yes.
Two questions.
Mhm.
Well, or maybe question statement. First question is, when somebody comes in currently and says, hey, I want to build my business, whatever, what are the steps that they go through? Like, who do they meet with? What departments are they sent to?
It depends on.
What
when
is
they
the
come
path?
in. If we can get them soon enough, we bring them in and they meet with what we call our development review team, which is me and Kathy and Patrick and the planning department and the fire district and public works and sanitation. If we need to bring in Atmos and Black Hills, we do that as well. And we talk over the plan. So they can ask as many questions as you possibly can. And then they leave with an understanding of what the site review process will be. Kathy gives them information about what the building process will be. And then we have much more ability to work with them, manage their expectations. And much more ability to work with them about whether, for smaller ones, is this the right site? Is it not the right site? That kind of thing. Typically, though, we don't know about it ahead of time. And they come in with a plan. Sometimes they just open their own business without talking to us. But typically they'll come in, if it's a new development, they'll come in and start to inquire about planning and zoning. And Patrick will talk to them about what's allowed, what's not allowed. Sometimes that results in a plan,
We set
in
up
a
a
development review
pre-application
team.
meeting is what we
Yeah.
set up. If it's a new development, they usually get a hold of either the building department or planning and zoning.
Yeah,
And they will ask us to set up a pre-application meeting.
and typically other
Is
reviewers.
this is the recommended process, if you will? Is there something on the website that's like, hey, you want to build here, here's it all spelled out?
Mhm.
When
Sure.
was the last time that page was updated?
It's
Good question.
updated mine is updated on a yearly basis of
But-
what is.
Oh, in
required.
terms of, oh, well.
No, I'm talking about when you guys talk about like your ideal process is go to the development review team. Is that like, is there a place where somebody can come in and go, I want to build this business, but I don't want to talk to somebody first? Because 70% of all B2B sales happens outside of a conversation. And so if we're looking at a
Not
B2B
yet. Creating a
instinct,
new economic
okay,
development
that's what I was
website.
gonna say. Is that on your website?
That's,
'Cause-
will be more geared toward that.
This segues to my second thing. So I'm hearing multiple pain points getting what's the word? Conflated. And so as we're moving forward, I want to be able to, at least for my own sake, separate out what some of the pain points are. Because for example, when we hear like that exact thing is you've already got a solution in the pipeline for let's say public discoverability, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel capable and they want to feel like they can solve a problem as much as they can before they involve someone else. And so a lot of what I've been hearing for the last few minutes is there's a difference between conditional zoning and what was the exception thing that people can go through with variance, variance, special review, board of adjustment, that's it, board of adjustment.
And that could be a variance through planning and zoning or the building.
Right, so while you guys were having that conversation, I was sitting here going, well, how does somebody find out about the Board of Adjustment? Oh, they have to talk to someone. Well, how does somebody initiate a conversation about the zoning? Oh, they have to talk to someone. But when industry metrics and business to business transactions say that currently to date, 70% of all sales that happen in the industry happen outside of a conversation, they happen in community referrals, they happen in research, they happen in AI. We have a very low hanging fruit from a solution standpoint, which is getting more information in people's hands. That's the first thing, because I'm hearing that there's a lot of solutions that are actually available. Because I literally sat here going, if somebody does walk in the door, when you guys have these meetings, do they get like a folder that has like everybody's contact information and what each of those departments does? Because if I were coming in the door, I'm really confused if somebody puts me in front of a department review team and says, oh, you want to have a business here? Here's 10 people to talk to. That is so overwhelming. But even if there's just something that I can take home to review or find on the website, which you're building a website. So again, that's why my head is going from an information about what is already in place standpoint. I'm excited about the opportunity of your website, but I want to identify that that's a very low hanging fruit, short-term, easy to fix opportunity for us. Because I'll tell you right now, most millennials, my whole job, my day job is I work in marketing, but one of the things is part of my job is identifying buyer profiles and buyer behaviors, right? And so who is our customer? Our customer is who is the citizens and the people who want to build here. They're our customer in terms of getting them in the door, and we want them to build here. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's confusing me is we're talking about this regional building thing, but it doesn't sound, I want to understand that would they be the advocate to help somebody go get a variance, or are they just there to streamline process? Because when we started this conversation, we went, here are all these problems people are having, but they're all sounding like problems that don't necessarily, like they're top, in my sales terms, they're top of funnel, not later funnel. Top of funnel is, they're coming in and saying, I don't even want to commit to $500,000 because there's all these issues at the top of the funnel, but a regional commission is going to help them with their plumbing inspection. Well, you're already 2/3 down the funnel if you've already built enough to need a plumbing inspection. And so that for me, I want to understand the value of the investment in time in this regional commission to get somebody across the finish line when we have a top of funnel problem in the first place.
So, there's a pain point that has been out there for years, as far as the reputation and how we're dealing with things. And that to me is something that we need to take a look at from a win standpoint. If we take a year before anything comes out of this committee to get something done, that to me is a problem. We don't have the momentum to deal with some things. And we know that that is an issue in the community. And what I'm asking is that we take at least one meeting and hear what they've got to say. And it was be the whole enchilada that you know, as somebody that's in development side of the fence, it is a bear to get capital into Canyon City because of our reputation. It is a very negative reputation, and I think I see the economic development manager over there shaking his head, yes. And I'm wanting to change our reputation, that we boldly say we are going to change our reputation, that we are now open for business as Canyon City, and that we are going to get rid of some of these pain points that are there. And some of them can be low hanging fruit. And just from a timing standpoint, right at the moment, because a lot of things are timing. When would you join such a regional building department? And because the county of Pueblo is not in there at this point, I think we've got a strategic advantage for addressing that at this point and talking. It has nothing to do with staff or anything else. Those discussions that have taken place. But what it is that we have the ability to quickly reform a reputation that is pretty negative for us and to do something different.
So I want to piggyback on that really quickly and just say, so what I'm really hearing is there's three conditions going on. We have the condition of we have a lot of solutions actually in our back pocket that are not connected or that are not publicly, like, it's hard to figure them out. If you're somebody who's just wanting to go Google it or wanting to come into the city without having to connect with a lot of people. We have great people, like when you were telling me about this development review team, I'm going, oh my God, like, you know, you market that as a concierge service. We have a concierge service for you to get through this process, but you don't know about it because it's you can't find it, if you will. So problem one is we actually have solutions. We don't know about the solutions.
Okay.
Problem two is we actually need to make some changes, whether it's to zoning or ordinances or things like that. And those are much bigger things to tackle. Problem three is reputation management. And reputation management is in some ways related to those other things, but in some ways it's not. But it is a huge problem. It's not to say it's any less of a problem, but I want to identify reputation management as its own problem without conflating it to a variance. Because that starts to
Maybe
be
I can help.
two different things. And I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to outline what we're really conquering here. I'm not saying they're
We're
not
talking about people that get into a situation, like you said, 70% of business to business transactions are not. So that I kept saying due diligence. If you're gonna enter into a real estate contract, enter into a business deal, you have to do your due diligence. You cannot rely on the municipality to come to you and say, oh, let me hold your hand. You have to know everything that's going on. I bought a decrepit building downtown. I didn't know we had a committee for that. I just contacted Kathy or the mayor at the time.
Building committee?
It's the business development committee that I could go through this. I said, hey, I need to meet with all you guys. We sat right here. I said, I'm buying this building. Here's what's wrong with it. Here's what I'm gonna do. Exactly, laid it out, and I want to hear from everyone what my issues can or may be. And we laid it all out, and I got to work. So I took it upon myself to figure out what are my hurdles gonna be? What am I looking at? And so I didn't know there was a committee for that. I just, before I signed on that deal.
Yeah.
I made sure I came here and figured it all out.
Well,
So a lot of people don't do that.
We see.
They buy a piece of land or a building and then they go, oh, I can't put an addition on this. I can't do that. Well, no one told me that.
We see the broad spectrum of like the Loves of the world that has dealt with entitlements. This is all called entitlement. That's dealt with entitlements before all over the country, and to the people that opened a business in a building where they couldn't, and there was so much wrong with it. And they got caught after the fact. I mean, it runs the spectrum. So you kind of have to. I don't know how you account for all of it, but yeah, people should do their due diligence. They don't all do it.
And that's what I found to be the biggest problem is that you have people who are gonna get the help or the people who aren't. And that there's really, the information's available. It's just they really don't want the government involved. That's what I found to be trying to make I mean, there it is. So people don't They don't want, they want, there's that old philosophy that says, or old saying that says, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And that's what we're getting a lot, is that people are, I mean, Rick tells you stories that people come in, they start leasing a business. And then they find out that it's not zoned for the business that they wanted to put there. They just see a rental sign down on Main and they're like, I'm gonna do this thing, and they just start going through the process. Well, here's where the problem really lies with going in through the next process. Is that with the exceptions and all those, is that they don't have the money to sustain that long.
Mhm.
So they've now invested the little bit that they have to try getting this little business going, and they're willing to do it all, but now they don't have months potentially to now pay a lease and drag this on to go through the exceptions boards and do all that, or to potentially change zoning. Now, as far as, I think what you're highlighting is it really important is the different issues. When we're talking about curb and gutter and other things like that, I think we can actually change those things ourselves, right? We can kind of do some local stuff to waive off some of these things. So those are kind of, we can, I think, potentially do some low hanging fruit there. And when it comes to the regional building department, you ask the perfect questions, which are, can we fix some of this stuff potentially in-house? Do we need to bring in a whole thing? What are those exact little details? And so exploring those different avenues. One of them is a big bold move with which is bringing in a regional thing. But the other options on the table are, you know, what can we do in-house potentially? What can we do, you know, working with the county? All these, there are a lot of different ideas that are out there, and they are all different stages
Yeah.
of that. Yes, that we
Yeah, so
will be able to address different ways.
Yeah, I'm not
yes.
trying to invalidate.
No,
any
you're
ideas.
good.
I'm just
We are-
trying to
no.
say, the conversation is actually,
Yeah, yeah.
sounds like it's commingling the ideas, when in fact we really do have four very prescient things, and some can be acted on quickly, some not. Like, I do think, you know, the idea of a regional, what's it called again?
Regional building department.
You know, regional building department. There's some things about that will help improve reputation, but that's not gonna change how somebody sits in a restaurant and talks about us.
Hmm.
Right? And so if we do go a direction like that, and we're bringing in an asset that may or may not require city procurement and complete alignment around city departments, what is? What, I mean, honest to God, the marketer in the room is going, what's the PR move there?
Yeah.
What is?
That's what we need.
Yeah, that's actually it.
You know, because
But-
it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's not, but we gotta think really big.
But I'm gonna be frank again. So I met with Rob Brown, and many of you know who Rob Brown is. He's the FEDC person that has been doing it for years, and
Fremont Economic Development Corp.
thank you. Appreciate that. So again, I'm not speaking out of school. Rob, if you're listening to this in future, this is something we talked about. So Rob went to a meeting with the Loves people, and they were the ones that put out the facility out there. He went to Talladega, I believe that it was, and went and visited with them. And their comment was they've never had a worse experience than they did in Canyon City. And that is the deal that they laid out, and that's there. There was another effort that was gonna be in Colorado Springs, and Rob, being in due diligence, went to those folks in Colorado Springs and said, hey, if you don't want it, we'll take it. And they absolutely said, there's no way we're gonna do business in Canyon City. So whether that is real or imagined, it is a challenge that we have, that people are saying no to us before they even get to the door of City Hall to do some stuff. And again, how do we take that on? Some of it is the bold move that Jeremy was talking about. Some of it, again, is just, it's imagined, but it's something we have to deal with if we want this community not to grow, but to thrive. And so that's our goal. How do we make Canyon City thrive? And that's why I am quite frankly excited about this group and the conversations that it's having, as far as the possibility that we take on these big strategic issues to deal with how we're gonna do business in Canyon City. And I'd rather see us do that than, you know, deal with the small things, for sure. So I would like your permission as the chair. I would like to invite Southern Colorado Building Department to be here. I'd like Kathy to be here at the time. There's been no decisions about staffing or anything else, but I'd just like us to hear this person out, what they're talking about, and you guys can ask any questions you want. Challenge them. The members who have went there have been challenging them significantly as well. And whether this is a good solution or we need to do some modifications internally or whatever, those decisions haven't been made. But at the end of the day, it's the 7 members of the city council that'll be making this decision. And I think we can have the input right now, and even the mayor doesn't get any vote on it either. It's gonna be the 7 members of the city council that is gonna be making that decision one way or another, and that's only if we've run it up the flagpole higher than what it is at this particular level, but this is where it needs to start, in the Economic Development Committee, because I think that's the issue. We're running out of time, and what I'm interested in is if you wouldn't mind filling these, working through this, I would sure appreciate it. And some of you have got, I know that Jennifer does the city of Gallup and has a background with that. We'd like to take full advantage of that as well. But just, we could work through something like this and just take a look at it and work through this document and be ready to talk further about it next time. I would appreciate that. The last thing we need to do on the agenda is we need to set a regular meeting time. So would that work? What we've been playing off from, it gets just a little tricky, but the council members would like to have it on the same week as we have council meetings, so we have an off week. And so we right now meet on the first Monday and the third Monday for the regular council meetings. So if it can play off from that we follow either the first or third Monday in that same week, that would be very useful. So
I thought we picked April 15th.
I don't,
I
what's
know
that?
we had March 18th.
I'd like to give it another shot. Is there any chance we could follow the first one instead of the second one? Cause there's two other groups that are meeting, following the second meeting. And I know that puts us in a fairly quick, position that would put us on the 5th, I believe. No, it'd be put us on the 4th.
Yeah, but we also have URA on those days, right?
You're right on that one.
On
That's
5
correct.
o'clock.
Yeah.
That's
so
on the
we'd be-
first,
We'd
Wednesday.
be pressed, yeah.
Yeah, it won't happen every time, but, it would.
Could this meeting be
Well, we're looking at.
directly before our council meeting? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
4
good idea.
o'clock, would you be able to make?
On which day?
Well, it'd be Wednesday. We're trying to set like an
First
every,
Wednesday.
every Wednesday. Yeah. Or every month. Is that what-
Jerry's got an idea,
Yeah,
which is,
I
would be,
can-
right in front of the council meeting. The only time that would mess us up is when we have executives or have
Yeah.
that early meeting, but, if it
well,
was
then
possible there.
we can switch it to 4. I don't know what everyone's
I
flexible.
was thinking before the URA meeting even.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
And
4
that's
to
what I prefer, because
So-
I'm already out of the house. If I go home, I don't wanna come back out.
Yeah,
So, I'm with you on that.
So what time are you-
4 o'clock every first Wednesday,
Yeah,
every first
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
That's fine.
Yeah. So you guys,
First
you
Wednesday.
actually have a meeting, or the other committee has a meeting on the first Wednesday and the first Thursday.
Thanks, Ryan. What about first Monday? That's what you're suggesting is right before the council. meeting.
Okay.
So 5 to 6 then?
No, 4 to
No,
5.
no, 4 to 5.
Okay.
Well, no.
Well, regular is
because,
6.
Well, we often have.
I guess we
meetings
could
at
still
5.
do the 4, cause then if our executive is
Right.
at 5,
Right.
so, yeah.
Okay.
That's fine
That
with
would
me.
work.
That actually puts us
Sure,
on
I
a
don't know.
meeting next, this coming Monday.
The
So we're
second.
looking at
No, it
March
doesn't use it.
2nd.
Yeah, the second. Yes,
And what time are you gonna shoot for?
4 o'clock on the second.
We have a TIF negotiation at 3 with the fire district that probably will run till 4:30, I'm guessing.
That doesn't include anybody from, the council, though, right?
Just you.
Correct, it does not. Ryan, potentially Ryan or me.
Right.
We'll be
Correct.
fine.
Yeah. We won't talk too much about you.
Well,
So
are you
4
wanting to
o'clock on
invite
the
them,
second.
or you want to invite, Global
Yes, I'm
Building
gonna
and
reach
during
out to
that? So wouldn't we want Rick and we want everybody?
Oh,
That's true too.
Yeah, let's just see, I'd like to do a tentative on that, and we'll just see how it works, okay?
So are we keeping the March 18th that was discussed the other day?
No,
Okay.
we're gonna go on the first Monday of each.
We're looking at 4 o'clock on Monday.
Direct
to 4.
district
Or
meeting.
is that-
We're always gonna have conversations, so. The last thing I wanna mention is that, and I really consider this important, I hope you'll consider it, which is, the next Canyon City Forward Talks is on, a week from this Thursday on the 26th. And this one is on tourism and our local economy. And we got a pretty good panel on there, including people that do the demographics and everything else. And I just invite this whole committee to come to that meeting. It's at 7 o'clock at the Steele Event Center on that Thursday. And we've got a really good panel, and just the panel right now is Will Colin. It's Rich from the chamber. It's the demographic person that the county has for tourism.
Right.
Fred Tony is gonna be there because not representing the council, but representing the Road Gorge Bridge. And there's a couple other people that skipped my brain right at the moment, but that's a really good panel that's gonna be talking about this pretty critical issue, so.
That's my wife's birthday, so I'll probably be not.
My wife's birthday tomorrow, so I'm gonna miss the one that you're gonna get tomorrow night, so. Yep. I think go with wife, for sure. Any other business?
I mean, I'll ask her if she wants to go.
Yeah, okay.
I did it wrong.
Okay, I really appreciate this committee. We do have, you can't send out a chain email that, everybody discusses, because that violates the open meetings, law. Again, this is a public meeting and we're, gonna be on YouTube with this, so just be careful a little bit with that, but anybody who has questions, please feel free. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.